My family has been in Georgia for well over 150 years since slavery, and it's been somewhere that's continued to be able to grow and become a dynamic area. I love the fact of how Georgians can come together to try to make a better state and ultimately a better country. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old during the first Persian Gulf War. My father had served in the Marine Corps in Korea and Vietnam. My grandfather had served in World War II in Guam. So I understood from an early age the need to step up into public service. Then when there's challenges and times of chaos, to step forward and almost as a responsibility. That is what I'm doing now as running for Secretary of State. My background has prepared for me this in a lot of ways. You know, in 2017, I was one of 16 cybersecurity experts from around the world that was chosen for a delegation now led by Secretary of State Tony Blinken to go to Ukraine. Nothing is more important than our election systems when it comes to democracy. Having someone who actually has the understanding of how critical infrastructures work, but also who has the understanding of the threats that we face today and in the future in cyberspace is only going to be more important as we go further in the future. It's vitally important we elect someone that has that background and that expertise to carry us forward.
Georgia has always been at the epicenter of the fight for voting rights. In recent years, the General Assembly in Georgia has passed laws that decrease access to the ballot and suppress the vote. How will you protect and expand Georgians' right to vote?
My family has a long history in Georgia, particularly in rural Georgia, fighting for voting rights and having everyone's voices heard for generations in this state. I understand the challenges that we have not only in Metro Atlanta, but across rural Georgia as it relates to have everyone's voices heard at the ballot box. It's not anything new. It's been happening for generations. This fight has been going on. I want to continue that fight to make sure that as the Republicans continue to make it harder and harder for Georgians to vote, that we have to have someone willing to step into the gap, willing to step up to ensure everyone's voices are heard, willing to, even in the chaos and all the confusion that goes on, we keep a keen focus on what we need to have, which is making sure that every eligible voter in this state has the right to vote.
Georgia has been at the top of everyone's minds, particularly as it relates to election integrity. Last year, the Secretary of State had to go up against the former President Trump to ratify the results of the 2020 election. How do you plan to make Georgia elections more transparent and fair while under the microscope of the nation?
So gerrymandering is nothing new. We have to make sure, particularly as Secretary of State, the single most important thing that I can do is ensure that we have elections to where every single voter in the state that's eligible to vote actually has that right to vote and can turn out to vote. I'm confident in the people and the residents and the voters of Georgia that they will continue to make the right decisions by electing the people. This is an important fact. They will elect the people that will ensure that whatever office they're going to attain, to ensure that they are putting the people first in those elections and in those values. The values of Georgia is strong. We know what it is. As you said, the epicenter of the civil rights movement is in Georgia, and it will remain strong. But in order to do so, we have to have a Secretary of State that's going to be willing to make sure that every voter can actually vote. If we do that, I'm comfortable that the residents and the voters of Georgia will continue to make the right choices to make sure their voices are heard.
Do you agree with Secretary of State Raffensperger's indicating that he would like to have law enforcement at the polls to protect the integrity of our elections?
Having police presence at voting precincts has been a tactic that's been long used in the line of voter suppression. This is something that I absolutely do not support, and I don't encourage anyone to support. The Secretary of State actually has investigators already in place to investigate any election activity that goes on that may run awry to the law. The last thing we need, however, is police, people that can make voter intimidation more apparent, people who are going to be at the polls to do nothing more than deter voters from coming out to vote. This is absolutely something that we do not need. The only option that we need to have is to ensure that voters are able to get in and out of the election and the polling location smoothly and simply. No, I absolutely do not support having police at precincts. It's unneeded, unwarranted, and it's not going to keep voters safer. It's going to deter voters from showing up to the polls.